All right, welcome everyone. I'm Wes Warren. I'm here with Greg Stanley. We are from Whitehall Management, and today's topic is the number one mistake doctors are making, and obviously how to fix it and how understanding this mistake and really, I guess, really buying into this idea, this concept that we're going to kind of cover can make a huge difference in just about every practice. And when I say everybody's making this mistake, I would say 9 out of 10. So 9 out of 10 offices have this problem. Greg, do you want to elaborate on this problem, how
Sure.
you see it?
Well, we talked about different number one mistakes, like there's more than one,
Yeah.
But one of the greatest is a doctor looking at their team, kind of shaking their head, going, well, there's some things they need to fix, but I've talked to them about it and it never gets fixed. So let's turn to another solution. And that coming to that conclusion is the number one problem that I'll throw more new patients into a bad system. More new patients. And like you said, the first big mistake is I'll go out and try to get a volume of new patients. And after that, when that doesn't work, your next conclusion is I got the wrong people. I need to get better patients, which all of this is possible. None of this is really wrong, but not necessarily the place to start fixing your problems. So if you're coming up short on gross or net, listen to this broadcast. You're probably not going to be able to fix uh, other problems with new patients. It only looks like it. In fact, there comes a point when more new patients create problems you can't fix, and it becomes a death spiral.
I would say the vast majority of people we talk to, that's kind of their conclusion is I need more new patients. How do I get more new patients? What kind of marketing is working? Is there a way I can ask for get patients to refer by asking or giving them a card that works? What have you seen? That's kind of where everybody drifts to by nature. And when we say that this is the number one problem, is this thinking.
Right. What's another
Because
idea that goes along with this is, yeah, I'm not getting enough new patients. I'm not getting the right patients. The referral people come in here and they buy everything on the shelf. They buy everything. So I need more referrals. So they look for clever scripts, programs, incentives for patients, for staff, all sorts of ways to manipulate people to get referrals without delivering the obvious. The obvious is patients want a fantastic experience with engaged, mindful, thoughtful, compassionate staff. And so when that doesn't happen, the hope is that some sort of clever script, like, hey, if I don't really hurt you too bad, will you send somebody to me? In other words, using programs, techniques, and if I could say it, gimmicks to try to substitute for a really great patient experience. The doctors that we have that can deliver consistent, great patient's experience on a large scale, you meaning a lot of people, new patients are the last of their problems. Uh, in fact, it's just the opposite. Trying to get them in, try to get them cared for, getting an associate to help with the process, those become the problems. When you think your problem is solved by new patients, we need to talk.
yeah, it's almost never the case, and most practices are set up in such a way that if we actually delivered, let's say, double the new patient flow, let's say you're at 15, and we end up getting you 30. What happens with that next 15 new patients is less than desirable. Usually, they end up with the B team. They end up with a hygienist or an assistant that isn't quite as good as your superstars. Your treatment coordinators get bogged down, and so they're spending less time with people. And all your success with marketing doesn't yield out with actual growth. Lots of practices actually grow the new patient total and have no real growth or measurable growth on their restorative production.
An example, Wes, of a practice that we were working with in the Southwest. The doctor and his team, a lot of them were his family, and they had come up with some rather innovative ways, and they were kind of driven to drive new patients to the office through marketing, promotion, all sorts of things. And they were at 212 new patients a month, which is a pretty respectable number when you consider there was 3 doctors in the office, okay? So good numbers. But they were starting to conclude that it wasn't working. They weren't making money. So they doubled their effort and got to 450 new patients a month. I mean, they were pouring them through there. And, because of this number, everybody came out to see them at our mastermind meetings. They were guests to be interviewed. Anybody who can generate 450 new patients a month is a certified celebrity. But the truth was they were losing money. They went in the hole. And when they finally figured out that it wasn't about this, it was about treating people a certain way, including getting each person to actually buy the dentistry that they really needed. And they turned that all around on back around 180 to 200 new patients a month. They were able to save, in the bank after tax, save $1 million in 1 year. They just literally took it to the bank.
Yeah, it's almost never the problem. It's almost always systems internally, capacity issues, especially in hygiene, how we actually get people in the practice, capacity constraints in hygiene, even for new patients. When we work with practices, kind of the first thing we do is do an audit of how long it really takes to get into the practice as a new patient. And everybody will always say, "Oh, I got an opening tomorrow. I got one next week," and that's all fine. But what's reality? In other words, let's look up the last 5 new patients or last 10 new patients that you saw, and how long ago did they actually call the practice from when they were visited? And what we find is drastically different results than just you checking the schedule and looking for a few openings. A lot of times it's way worse. And when we start to see practices push 2, 3, 4 weeks out for new patients, right there, that's a bottleneck to be fixed and to be solved. You've got problems with restorative production, meaning getting better case acceptance, and jamming through a bunch of marketing patients through a case acceptance that's already a little shaky is going to give you 0 in terms of results. It's not uncommon for us to segment out the marketing patient and really see drastic results. Okay, you got 10 new patients that are referred or learn about you, and then you got 10 that come through marketing. When we look through at the 10 that are referred, we do great. When we look at 10 that are marketed through, we almost have all zeros.
Let's take a case where maybe this isn't true. For example, you finally stepped up to the batter's box and got an associate doctor. Well, yes, we need 20 or 30 new patients a month for that doctor. But if you, as an owner, are in a dead run, like running in front of a reaping machine, trying to solve all your problems with more and more patients who pay less and less,
right,
you finally get exhausted. So let's look at this from the eyes of the doctors we're working with. Some of our doctors, they listen to this and say, yeah, maybe a new patient's not the answer. Let me go to my staff and talk about this. And you go to them and they're playing on their phone or drifting mentally off into space or calling in sick. And you say, wow, these people just don't get it. These people are not engaged. They're not trained. They don't want to be trained. And you're going to try to solve this with new patients that cost about $180 to get a phone call out of? That's not going to work. I can just tell you that.
And that's where we find a lot of people, and that's their conclusion is I need more new patients. And that is the big mistake in dentistry. That's got to be kind of the last resort. Once you've solved all your problems in terms of systems, checklists, training, that your new patient experience is great, that we have kind of great case acceptance. We got really good treatment coordinators and they're fully trained. We have great hygienists and assistants pre-assessing the dentistry. When all this is kind of set up and running smooth, then yes, you can turn on the marketing and you'll see results. But if you jump the gun and you miss one of those things I talked about, you get everything working good and one thing is off, you don't get the results.
Let me
Everything has to be working.
give you another example. Some doctors, they hesitate to turn to our coaching program because they're afraid we're going to disrupt their staff, who are very, very good at destroying their practice. They're slowing them down. They're not getting referrals. They're not being impressive. Occasionally, we do have to replace people. We go in and try to train, retrain, motivate, direct them, get the numbers, get the balance right. But I'll be honest, there's times when staff have proven themselves with 15 super late tardies in 20 days or whatever. There's times when we do have to recommend a replacement. So let's do like you're talking about, Wes. Let's get everything ready. And it doesn't have to all be ready, but at least to receive the phone call right, get people in the office, and give them a reasonable good experience. Then we can turn on the tap. And it's kind of good news if you ask me. Today, there's not a practice in this country that cannot see its new patients double, if not triple, if they'll simply pay the money. There's a price tag for every new patient now.
Yep.
They come in the form of phone calls, but if you're willing to pay it, the people will get there. You got to get your team ready, though, ready to impress.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to fix in a dental practice way before you get into marketing. There's just how to book the patient. So as the Scheduling Institute has made a whole living basically on this because it's such a big problem, especially when you deal with marketing patients, just getting patients through the door. Then you got to get them to show up. Then you got to get them to actually do a little dentistry. You got to have a team really working on reactivations, calling open treatment plans, really, really trying to fill the schedule and being as efficient as possible, moving patients and being proactive in terms of when, somebody cancels tomorrow, they're moving somebody from Monday or from Tuesday into the schedule. All these things need to be happening and being run super efficiently before you won't even want to think about adding marketing to a practice.
So I would say, summing up what you're telling me, new patients aren't the answer, but they can be an answer if they're presented at the right time. In other words, there's a set of priorities that have to be addressed, and then new patients can flow and it can all make money.
Yeah, it's like an afterburner, right? So you got to get the plane, you got to get the wings, you got to get everything set up. You got to have an engine. It's got to get going, and it can get you up to maybe 1,000 miles an hour. And then you light the afterburner, which is burning extra fuel. Yeah, it's like a supercharger, but you can't start there. It won't get off the ground.
In fact, I have doctors who pull away from marketing like they just touched their hand to something red hot because they realize they're actually replacing the handful of referrals they're getting with non-buying marketing patients. They're paying for people that they were getting for free. In other words, they actually took 2 more steps backwards. So you got to get the timing right. Give us a call if you think we can help you get your priorities right and get this thing on track for you to start turning it around.
The most important thing for you, doctor, is getting a list of things that need to be fixed first. So I listed off a few things, but typically what we do is we spend an hour or two talking to you and your team a little bit about all these different systems, and we check off all the systems that are working well, and then the systems that need to be fixed and addressed, and the changes that need to be made so that marketing will work. Want that done, let us know. We'll do it.
We're going to be doing a mastermind, a Whitehall mastermind that anyone listening can attend. They just have to call and sign up. It's going to be in Cincinnati. It's going to have the biggest practices in the country. and I might add some of the most well-run, impressive practices. And this is what we're going to be working on, is fine-tuning these well-run practices to really kick it into overdrive. So join us on that. Give us a call. We'd love to talk about what you're facing in your practice. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.